Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheek so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight. God, Father of the Bride is such a good movie. Such a good movie. Just a slight warning, but this video is going to be quite unlike a lot of my previous videos. It is not going to be properly structured, it will be a bit personal and choppy and all over the place, and I will probably cry a lot because you see, it's a strange case of serendipity that led me to make it today. I was surfing YouTube as we all do. I mean, you are watching me on the platform right now, which, hello. Thank you so much for gifting me your precious time and clicking on this video. But as I was saying, I was surfing YouTube as we all do when what do I see but a trailer from 5 years ago that read Father of the Bride Part 3-ish. Now, my instinctual reaction was to scoff at it and come to the logical conclusion that someone was trolling and created a mashup of clips from part 1 and 2 and called it part 3 in order to get us to click on it. And I was going to be one of those people because I am a sucker for Father of the Bride. But then I noticed the channel that had uploaded it. It was Netflix, like the verified Netflix channel on YouTube. So that got me to pause because why on earth would Netflix create a fake video? So there I am, clicking on this trailer, holding my breath, anxiously waiting for what I was about to see because, confession time, Father of the Bride was my favorite movie growing up. I watched the VHS so many times, part 1 and 2, because it was my dad's favorite movie too. We watched it together practically once a month on a weekend because he loved it. Steve Martin was his favorite comedian. His second favorite was Dick Van Dyke, which meant that I also watched a ton of Mary Poppins and Bang Bang. Yes, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Got a lot of rewatch value in my house. We had similar taste in movies, you see. He influenced me a lot in the things I watched, how I enjoyed them, what I thought about them, and how I get so excited to share them with others. I mean, that is what I'm doing with this channel after all. I love television. I love movies. I love Father of the Bride. When I was much younger, the only reason why I was excited at the thought of potentially getting married was to have my dad walk me down the aisle to a playlist of songs from this movie because it was our theme. And it would have been scandalous because my dad was my stepdad who raised me. However, typical Nigerian society would insist that my biological father be the one who gets that honor. I wasn't going to let that happen. Dad was going to be the one to walk me down the aisle, damn it. But that never happened because he passed away 13 years ago. And I lost any and all interest in walking down the aisle. I also stopped rewatching Father of the Bride for a while because it hurt a little too much. And I'm sure right now you're wondering why I'm wasting that precious time I thanked you for at the start of the video and when exactly I will get to the damn point. Well, it's because, like I said, I clicked on the Father of the Bride Part 3-ish trailer and I hear the voice. The iconic voice of George Banks, and I was transported again to a younger time, a happier time, and I beamed with joy. It was just a short clip. We heard Diane Keaton's Nina call for Steve Martin's George, who responds that he's washing his hands and has another happy birthday to go. And I started laughing because that was how I washed my hands in the height of lockdown and COVID. Which, by the way, I hope everybody's still washing their hands and staying masked in public when they can, for your sake and for the sake of those who are immunocompromised living around you. But anyway, I hear that voice and I'm laughing again because it's such a perfect capturing of the joy that is Nina being calm and George being extra, and it's father of the bride. And thankfully, the up next video was the full Father of the Bride part 3 ish. All 25 minutes available to watch on Netflix's YouTube account. And so I click. And would you look at that? They are all back on my screen, perfectly embodying these characters that I knew and loved since I was a child. Kieran Culkin is still Marty, calm like his mother Nina. Kimberly Williams Paisley is still Annie, quick-witted like her father George. Florence Pugh is Megan, the baby girl that George and Nina had in part 2. And Ben Platt is George Banks Mackenzie, named for his grandfather, who shares a birthday, same day, same year, with his aunt, Megan. Because yes, Nina and George got frisky, she got pregnant, and Nina went into labor on the exact same night as her daughter Annie. And as I'm watching this video that was done for charity, which God, I wish I had seen this when it went live in the height of lockdown, because I would have donated too. But as I was saying, it's put together for charity to give to communities and people who need that sustenance and support. And it's also this incredible reunion of the Banks family that perfectly captures the lockdown experience, where we want to be physically with our friends and loved ones and can't because we're trying to keep everybody safe as we navigate the terrifying reality of being in the middle of a pandemic, all the whilst trying to find joy and community wherever we can. And a lot of us did that. And in watching that video, I hoped a lot of us still are. So as I was watching this short addition to Father of the Bride, it had me thinking about how a lot of us have forgotten that. How we've let the years, the nearly half a decade since, can you believe that time is real? Like what, 5 years? It's been 5 years since the lockdown, gods. Sorry, ADHD, ADD brain, my thought patterns go all over the place. But as I was saying, I was watching the clip and all I could think was how, even though it's been 5 years and way after the clip was shot and shared, the fact that I got to watch it yesterday, that I stumbled on it and could be reunited with the Banks family on my screen, it's serendipity. It felt like a bit of joy that the universe wanted me to still have, to grab a hold of, to realize that just because I didn't ride that wave or catch it when it came back then, doesn't mean I get to lose out. It might have been much later than planned or expected, but it still existed, waiting for me to stumble on it, to come in contact with it, to find joy in something that is so mundane and random. I mean, it's basically these actors from the movie all gathered in front of their computers, embodying the characters that made them famous for those of us who loved the previous films. And yet that small act brought me so much joy because it's the little things. And we're back again with the Banks family. Once again, Annie has locked George out of their room, which is a callback to how he keeps sticking his feet in his mouth in Father of the Bride parts 1 and 2. That always led to her kicking him out of their room until he begs and she lets him in later again. Everyone teases George about the many inane things he's done in the previous films. I particularly love them bringing up the hot dog bun scene because that would always make me cackle. I have said it randomly to people who never saw the film, don't get the joke, and can't wrap their heads around why I am laughing so much, but I don't care. I am removing the superfluous buns. It's always going to make me screech like a banshee. And also, George Banks is saying no. Who's George Banks? Me! Sorry. It doesn't make any sense, but life is short and we should get our joy where we can. I love that Father of the Bride part 3-ish still had George bringing up Annie's wedding, especially now that Matt informs his family that he's getting married via Zoom. It's a pretty great addition in the film as there were people who did marry via Zoom during lockdown. And then after lockdown was lifted, they did a renewal of vows / official ceremony, but the actual marriage proper happened online. And I just loved how the Zoom wedding led to George, of course, having to bring up the fact that he had been looking forward to being the father of the groom. in an official setting where someone else is the father of the bride who has to be at the cost of the wedding. He would get to attend the ceremony, delighted out of his mind that it didn't cost him a thing. And if you've watched the films, you know how out of his mind George was about Annie's wedding. Like, don't get me wrong, it was an utterly, absolutely beautiful wedding. But they almost gave that man a damn heart attack. And then he almost missed out on Annie saying goodbye to him, because when she and Brian were leaving for their honeymoon, he had to recruit Matty and his friend to help him in packing the cars so they don't get fined and towed, because all the guest vehicles were clogging up the street. Whether it's having George navigate marrying of his daughter, or having to deal with the fact that he's about to become a grandfather at the same time as he's welcoming in a new addition into the family via his now very pregnant wife, there's so much incredible hilarity in Father of the Bride as a concept, and so much heart and love as well, because it broaches the subject of children growing up and moving out from their parents' home to explore the world and find their own personhood. And there's so much joy to be had in that discovery. But it's bittersweet as well, because we age, and as we do, life changes, becomes a bit less easy, especially in the present society that we are in. There's a nostalgia to times past and things we took for granted that we find in watching old movies and reconnecting with stars from those same movies who make a film together to reprise their roles for charity. And there's an added layer of nostalgia if you're like me, stumbling upon this video half a decade after it was made. Because now you're torn between thinking back to the 90s when you first watched the film and fell in love with the Banks family, and thinking back to 2020 and where you were in the height of the pandemic in the middle of lockdown. You look at how time has passed, the things that have changed, and you feel your heart break a little. But also, there's a bit of joy from remembered memories and the happy accident of reconnecting with something that you loved long ago. Sorry if this video didn't make any sense and seems a strange break in what I've always created and shared. Felt the need to get this off my chest and process my thoughts, and I just did that with you all. So, if you're still listening, thank you for your time and attention. Let me know if you've watched Father of the Bride before. And if you've watched Father of the Bride Part 3-ish. I will leave the link to it in the description bar if you want to give it a watch. But for maximum feels, I would advise that you at least have watched parts 1 and 2 previously before you get into it. And take your joy where you can. Like this video if you haven't done so yet, share it if you want to, support me on Patreon if you can, and until tomorrow's video and our regular scheduled programming, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.